So I write about things that I'm interested in right now, and I've done the filler thing and made posts about, something that I wasn't crazy about, and I just try not to do that anymore. I'd rather not have a post than have a post that I think is kind of just halfway there for what I really want to get across.
That was Phillip Fryman, and this is episode number 126 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. I am your host, and this is the Chopped Podcast. You know, this is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. So what are we doing here? Well, every week my goal is to share with you thoughts, stories, interviews, everything related to food blogging so we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Just a really quick shout out to everyone who's been sending me messages and shout outs on social media. I just can't tell you how much I love that. It really makes my day. It helps me feel so connected to you, and I really appreciate it. One thing that you can do that would really help the show out is to head over to iTunes or Stitcher and just leave a review of the podcast and the show. Leave a note saying what it's meant to you, how it's helped you. That really helps the show out a lot because each of those reviews is kind of like a little mini endorsement, and it encourages them to share the show even more, and that'll help us get listens from more people, and that's always a wonderful thing. So okay, let's get straight to today's episode. Today I'm talking to Phillip Fryman. He's of the site Southern Fatty. I called this show the Mad Kitchen Scientist Food Blogger because, well, Phillip's day job is in a lab, and we talk about how he carries that mindset, the lab and scientist, into his kitchen. And I don't know, it just made me think of us all, like we're all in the kitchen as scientists, because if you think about it, that's what we're really doing, right? We're combining ingredients, studying outcomes. I love that. So let me tell you how I first ran across Phillip. I met him on Instagram, and I kind of think you should too. I think his Instagram feed is just inspiring. Of course, there's beautiful photography and beautiful shots that he's sharing of his recipes and things like that. But also his recipes are very tempting. I mean, delicious. I mean, he does a lot of pastries, and it makes me want to just like run out to a pastry shop today and go get something because it's just so delicious. But I also really like more than just the beautiful photography. It's just the perspective of his photos and his posts and the way he writes about them. I just feel like it comes across as really Phillip. And I have never even met Phillip, but I can just feel the authenticity and what he's saying. So I really like that. Do you remember when I had Kara on the show and she talked about how she used Instagram as her way of discovering her voice? I thought that was so creative. And I kind of wondered if maybe Phillip had done the same thing. So that's why I invited him on the show to really talk about his blog and his voice and how he's used that. And I was just so surprised to see how this conversation evolved and spread into so many different areas. And of course, we talked about voice and authenticity, but there's also, I guess I would say it like an authenticity in his process because, for example, Phillip gives himself space to post on a schedule that reflects who he is in the moment. And, that's kind of in the face of, we might feel this pressure to post 2 or 3 times a week on a very rigid schedule. We see this a lot. We see other bloggers, they post 3 times a week and they seem to be so successful. And so we kind of feel like, well, that must be the winning recipe, right? Well, Phillip says for him, taking the time to listen to himself and provide, those necessary breaks really keeps his content fresh and authentic. And I really love this idea, and I've referred to it in the past as filling up the well. And my favorite author is Julia Cameron, and she talks about this in her book. Her book is called The Artist's Way. You can't just keep going to the well over and over and over again. The well will dry up. So every now and then, you have to fill the well. So that may mean actually stepping away from the computer, stepping away from the kitchen, and going and doing something entirely different. Julia calls these artist dates, where you take yourself out on your own and do something for yourself. And I don't know, that could be, maybe it's a trip to the farmer's market, or maybe it's something completely non-food related, like going to a play, or maybe you go to a museum. Whatever it is, it's something that you do for yourself that helps kind of spark your creativity. And that's what I left with from this discussion with Phillip, that you got to listen to yourself and take those breaks and kind of fill up the well. It's a very inspiring discussion. I think you're going to love it. I'm really honored to have had the chance to chat with Phillip, and I'm really pleased to be able to share it with you today. So let's get straight to it. Here's today's feature interview with Phillip Fryman. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Phillip Fryman. He's of the site Southern Fatty. He is on the show today. Hey Phillip, welcome to the Chop Podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better because, you and I have never really met, but I follow you on Instagram and just really love your stuff as a lot of other people do. So I wonder if you could just begin by kind of giving everybody a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, I run the blog Southern Fatty, which I'm born and raised here in the South. I'm from Kentucky originally. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, which is the best city ever. You should all visit. Don't move here because I want it for myself, but you can visit. But I've lived in Nashville for about 6 years. And my blog itself, I've had for 3 years, and it's exactly what the name implies. It's Southern comfort food, no salads. It's kind of the food that I grew up with and that makes me happy, and fried everything. It's kind of what Southern Fatty should be. So
the name says it all. Like what to expect when you get there.
Yep.
I bet the domain name was easy to find too, huh?
It totally was. Nobody had it for some reason. So
I love the creativity I see in some of these blog names, and it's really cool. Yeah.
I struggled with it at first. I mean, my blog, I didn't really start it with intentions of it being anything bigger than more than kind of just a little joke between some friends. But it surprised me. It's really kind of, it's difficult to think of a really good blog name though sometimes. I mean, you don't want to be another one of these kind of generic names. You want something people will remember. So I think people definitely will remember Southern Fatty.
And then you also want to be able to get the social network names too.
Right. Yep. I checked everything before I registered it, and amazingly enough, nobody had any of them. So
it's also nice because it's kind of short. It's like some sites seems like they have these very long names and then they abbreviate.
Oh yeah. I don't have the attention span for that.
It's just Southern Fatty and just get over it. That's what it is.
It. I did buy Southern Skinny as well, but I doubt I'll ever launch it. So we'll just leave it at Southern Fatty. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so the thing I noticed about you on your About page of your site, though, is that you've had an interest in cooking for a long time.
Yes. So since I was a little kid, it's really what I originally thought I would be doing as a career. And I spent my nights, instead of playing baseball or whatever normal kids do, I sat at home and made blueprints of restaurants and made menus and cooked all the time. My mom cooked constantly, and my whole kind of family did, and I would hover over her shoulders, and that's kind of where it all came from. I wanted to go to culinary school and didn't do that because I talked to some people that worked in the restaurant world probably around the time I was in high school, and they just kind of told me it was a rough environment, and it kind of scared me away from it. So I opted for a career in science instead. Totally random.
I would say the chefs that I have met in person, I mean, with the exception of one, they are kind of, I don't know if intense is the right word, or maybe,
definitely.
Or maybe cranky is another word.
Yeah, cranky. Cranky's probably a good word too, but I mean, if I had to work 16 hours a day in a restaurant, I'd probably be cranky too. So
yes, on your feet.
It's just, it takes a lot out of you, I think. And I'm kind of glad I didn't do it. I've had days where I have had a little bit of regret about not doing it.
bet.
But overall, I think it was a good choice.
I mean, I kind of feel you too. Like, for me personally, it's like I didn't even know there was such a. I grew up in a really small town here in Missouri, and I never even knew there was such a thing as being. You go to school to be a chef. What? What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But now that I've got a blog, I can see. Like I don't know. I went to grad school. I mean,
Yep.
I like names or titles after a name, and so I have this attraction to like getting that, but
Right.
I'm certainly not going to do it now.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I've kind of tossed
Yeah.
around the idea of going back and just
doing it.
opening my own little bakery that I'm not
Yes.
much of a morning person, so I think it might be a problem, but maybe people would be on board with a bakery that opens at like noon. I don't know. We'll see. Like for all the lazy people out there or all the people that aren't morning people.
That want fresh pastries at noon. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. Or just stays closed some days. I don't know. I like
I
having
know.
my own schedule, and so I think blogging worked out really well.
Yeah, and so you have this degree in science, which
Yes.
I mean, I think that I can see the correlation between an attraction to cooking, specifically pastries, and a
Right.
correlation in science.
Yeah, definitely. It's something I've never really thought about until I created my blog, but I guess it kind of makes sense that I've always
Yeah.
always been kind of nerdy and like I like analytical things, and my my passion is baking and really kind of complicated pastry and stuff that just takes a lot of effort and learning, and it goes hand in hand completely with my day job as a research biologist. So
I can just
it's
see you
very
as a mad.
similar.
I can just see
Yeah,
you as a
yeah,
mad
yeah.
scientist. Go ahead.
No, it just I know what you're gonna say is like a mad kitchen scientist kind of
Yes.
thing. Yep,
Yes.
that's totally dead on.
I wonder if that URL is taken, Mad Kitchen Scientist. That would be a
Oh,
good blog.
I'm gonna have to get it before
I'll
all
beat
these
you to
people hear
it.
it.
I'll beat you.
Yeah.
That would be a good one, yes. But I could just totally see you doing that and pouring over the details of the recipe. I mean, do you do grams or cups, or what do you do on your site?
Oh, I try really hard now to include both.
Okay.
I would probably if I had my way, I would prefer to just straight metric. I
Yeah.
think it's so much better for baking. I'm a huge proponent of weighing everything if you're baking, and so I do talk about that a lot on my blog. But I try to include cups and
Do you
whatnot
get resistance
in
from that?
most. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think most of kind of your home bakers really
Yeah.
that's a little easier for them. But there's a few recipes where I probably are like macarons post where I think I've found a really good ratio of the weight, and it's really important to weigh things out. I think those I push a little harder on and try to tell people to buy a $10 kitchen scale, and it'll change their life.
Philip, I do think the United States is kind of way far behind in this
They
whole metric thing.
are.
Maybe
Yeah.
we could make the change in cooking first and set the
Yeah.
set the pace.
I think that'd be a great place to change it. It's so much easier once you kind of learn that system. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, it's also easier because it's something I use at work every single day. So it's
Yes.
already kind of in my head. And once you kind of learn the system and the conversions, it's really pretty nice. I don't ever mess my recipes up now, worrying about how to measure flour properly or spooning flour into a cup instead of scooping it. And I just pull a scale out, and I've gotten really good at the kind of one bowl method where you just put a bowl there and weigh something and then zero it out and keep going. And it cuts down on mess. We should start a movement, a
I
metric
love it.
movement.
I think it's a great idea. That said, I still use measuring cups, so you'll have to start with me.
All right, we'll start there. That's all right
Okay,
though.
one person at a time. Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to photography, because I feel like
Yes.
that's an area where a lot of food bloggers, especially at the beginning, they kind of struggle. Did you come into your food blog with any food photography skills?
So I came into my blog with some photography skills, but zero food photography skill,
Yeah.
which I like. I think there's a clear difference
Yeah.
in what most people start in photography. I studied photography a little bit in college. I obviously majored in biology, but I took several photography classes there just because I enjoyed it and it was something kind of to do. It fulfilled my art credits, so I did that. And I focused mostly on landscape photography then, which I still really like, but I learned how to use a camera then, learned how to jump into manual mode and work with light and kind of adjust things that way. But so I kind of had a little bit of an advantage, I think, that way. But food is its own beast. It's totally different. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I still, by far, photography is my favorite part of blogging. That's probably why I like Instagram so much, really, is because it's a place where I can just kind of share photos and see other people's, and it's fun to see the growth of people throughout their blogs or just social media with photography. It's definitely probably what I get questions about the most through my blog is for food photography. But
You get questions on how you do your photos?
oh yeah. Most, I would say, like at least half of the emails I get from people or messages from people are about how to start or how to use lights and those kind of normal questions. Since I have a day job, most of my pictures are taken at night. So it kind of forced me to learn artificial light a lot more. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been really frustrating at times, but it's been a lot of fun.
What's frustrating about it to you?
I think I just wasn't used to it. And it's there are a lot of opinions out there about how to do things. And I think you just kind of have to learn to form your own methodology of taking pictures and form your own aesthetic and your own style and stick with it. And once you find something you enjoy, and that's, I think, benefited me a lot, is finding kind of a certain look or approach to photography that I enjoy, that I can stick to. And that's really that's probably good advice for people that are just getting started, is to just kind of take as many pictures as you can. And then once you find something that you like and you enjoy, even if other people don't, just keep doing it, because that's the way to grow with it.
I would think using artificial light, though, would have an advantage, and that is, like, when you're using natural light, it's constantly changing.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I really enjoy the consistency of artificial light. I do use I use a lot of natural light now if I can kind of schedule things out, but I really like that I have a setup that I know works, and I can set that up exactly how I know will work and throw food in front of it, and it will be consistent. So that kind of goes back to the nerdy side of me. I've tested all these conditions and I know which one's the best, and so it's nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, like you say, if you're working during the day and then you get home and you prepare something, you can shoot it at night. So that's pretty cool.
Which I think a lot of bloggers that are not full-time bloggers, they start, just filling in here and there where they have time. And so it's intimidating, though, I think, having light bulbs and diffusion, and it's confusing for people, but it's really not that bad. I think you just kind of have to jump into it and try things.
Yeah. And, even when you're working with natural light, and even if you're there during the middle of the day, you can still have conditions that are like, it could be cloudy out, and certain times of the year, like it's winter now. So right now the sun is lower in the sky. So that's not as bright.
Yep. Different times of day when different rooms in your house work better for pictures. So it's a fun process. I mean, that's goes back to kind of the enjoyment of it. I like the learning process of photography. I still learn something constantly when I'm taking photos. So
isn't that it's both perplexing and inspiring about food blogging, because it feels like there's always something to learn.
Right. Yeah. But I think if that ever stopped, I'd get bored with it. That's the fun part, is I like asking questions and figuring out how to do something differently. And when I stop enjoying that is probably when I'll shut my blog down. So
yes, exactly. Okay, so you talk about the things that you like the most. Are there any things about food blogging that you don't like so much?
Um, I'm, I guess I feel pressured a lot to create a certain number of posts or create a certain amount of content. And I'm moody as can be. And so there are weeks when I don't want to do anything. Have used all my backup content and I'm out of stuff. So I need to make something. And I just don't do it. And I've kind of had to learn how to accept, that up and down with myself with blogging. And once I kind of let go of that though, and just said, if I force myself to make 2 posts this week, like I feel like I should, they're probably not going to be that good. They're not going to be really the same kind of tone that I normally would enjoy writing in. And it's going to feel a little more forced. And that's just not what I want. So there are some weeks where I might post 4 times in a week. And then there might be 2 weeks where I don't post anything. And that was really hard for me. There's a lot of pressure in the blogging world too, which is, you see all of these other blogs that are successful and you want to emulate kind of that success. And part of that is creating consistent content. And that is definitely important. But I think letting go a little from certain number of posts per week in my head was really difficult for me, and is still a struggle. I mean, I'll still get busy with other things in life and not have as much time. And you just kind of have to learn how to deal with it.
It's true. I feel like I have had the same feelings before too. Like I sometimes feel like content feels like a hamster wheel. Like we've got to constantly be churning it out. And
Absolutely.
I feel resentful of that after a while. But I've found that it's interesting that when I just kind of, like you were just mentioning, you kind of release that negativity or the relax into it maybe. And then it's like, I just end up creating the content I want to do, and it's going at the pace that I think, it works great. I don't know what and
it's better content. Like, you're going to make better content if you're happy about it. So don't force yourself too much. I mean, I think it's important to try to put out enough content. You can't really have a successful food blog that posts once every other month, I don't think, because you're not going to have much of an audience with that. But I just kind of have to deal with it sometimes. Like right now, I haven't posted for probably a week, and it's kind of in the back of my mind bothering me a little bit. But at the same time, I've been busy with other things, and I haven't felt like writing in that time. So next week, maybe I'll make up for it. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Exactly. I have this podcast I listen to, and she does not publish on a schedule. And so she hadn't published for several weeks, and I was kind of like, I kind of miss her. And then all of a sudden she's published like 4 in the last week, and it's just been I've been so excited. So maybe that's how your audience will feel when you publish.
Maybe I'll build up a little bit of suspense. Maybe.
Yes, like, there he is. He's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad way.
I feel like that's what things celebrities would do, is kind of disappear for a little while and then come back into the picture for more buzz. So maybe I'll quit posting Instagrams for a week and see what happens.
It creates a mystery around your life, right?
I know, right?
Right. We're too transparent sometimes.
Yeah. I'm going to write that one down.
I feel like most artists produce on a schedule. Like they have time off and then they have time back. Like if they're in a play, the play doesn't run every week, or maybe it does. I don't know, but it seems like they have schedules.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of, you see both extremes. I think a lot of bloggers will recommend creating a schedule and creating content at these certain times. But at least for the content I make, it's very much based on experience. So I write about things that I'm interested in right now, and I've done the filler thing and made posts about something that I wasn't crazy about, and I just try not to do that anymore. I'd rather not have a post than have a post that I think is kind of just halfway there for what I really want to get across. So
that's really good. Yeah, I like that. And so do you find, like, I mean, I'm not trying to ask you to say specifics on your numbers, but when you take time off, is your traffic still the same? So then you wouldn't have to worry about it, right?
It kind of depends. So, I mean, I'm all about analytics. I look at my analytics more than I should. And I've actually, when I first started kind of realizing that I was getting really frustrated with myself and creating some content sometimes that I just didn't think was 100%. I made myself just stay off of Google Analytics for a month and just didn't look, and created content as I felt like I wanted to create the content, and then I looked after. And I think there are dips if you don't create content consistently enough. And but now that I'm 3 years in, I do have kind of that backlog of posts that keep the blog at a certain level. I definitely probably have higher traffic for when I post a new post, and when my subscribers or something see a new post, but it stays pretty consistent. There's at least a nice baseline that I think it follows after you get that archive of good content. That was frustrating at first when I started blogging, was not seeing that consistent growth. And you try to turn out all of these posts just to have enough content there for people to want to stay, and that just takes time. I mean, it's not anything that you can rush or make happen. You can't have the best food blog in the world in 3 months. So
yes, it does take time, right?
It does. Yeah. But I think people really like seeing, I've had followers that have been there from, my first 6 months that are still, they're still sticking around, and people really like being part of that kind of journey of seeing where you've gone personally and where you've grown on your blog. So I don't think don't focus on it. Just keep going and growing at the rate you feel like, and I think you'll get the right audience with it. And
yes, very good advice. Just take yourself off the comparison game.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like that. So I would imagine, because of the kinds of recipes that you do, that you do need some time between. I mean, these aren't just like wham bam, thank you ma'am recipes. These are like, almost scientific in nature. So do you give yourself time to just play in the kitchen, or, you know what I'm saying?
I go in the kitchen with the hopes that it'll work the first time, and then I can repeat it once and it'll work perfectly, and then I can post it. But it never happens that way. So that's kind of, I think a lot of the gaps in my posts are probably from that experience, because I've been working on a croissant post for 2 months now, and I can make a pretty good croissant, but I've ordered all of these different types of flours with different protein and ash content. And so it's one of these things that I thought would be a little easier, but now I'm so focused on kind of these little details that I've kept trying. And there might be a week where I don't post because I've made 3 failed batches of croissants, And so,
what are you searching for? What is the hunt that you're after, Phillip? What is the perfect croissant to you?
I don't know. I think I have memories of being in France and all of these pastries that I've had, and I think it's just I think it's just this. It's probably really more the process, if I'm totally honest. Like, I probably, if I sat in like a therapist's couch or something, they'd probably get down to figuring out that I really just like playing around with it and seeing what different things do. But I mean, I've made some pretty good ones, but I wanted to try authentic like French flours. So I ordered those, and then I ruined all of them. So I had to order more, and it just but it's the process for me. Yeah. I mean, it really is. And I guess the end result of perfection is probably a little bit, subjective.
Have you ever thought about doing a post where you're like, comparing, this is a croissant that's made with this kind of flour, and this is a croissant made with this kind of process?
Hopefully it'll happen. We'll see. In about a month or so. I did end up, I mean, I've messed so many of them up at this point that, and I say messed up, I mean, they're still pretty good, but I ended up getting so frustrated with all of the croissants that weren't really at the level that I wanted them to be for the perfect French croissant, that I ended up making kind of a failed recipe with all of the croissants that I got impatient and opened the oven and they collapsed or something, and made croutons out of them. So that I have kind of I screwed this recipe up so much that here's a fail recipe. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, you just have to have fun with it. And
you could create a new saying, Phillip. When life gives you bad croissants, make croutons.
Make croutons, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I was thinking of Tess Arias. She's with the site Handle the Heat, and she did that chocolate chip cookie comparison guide. Mm-hmm. Here it is with browned butter, and here it is with only brown sugar. And I think that just went crazy for her.
Oh, it did. It did.
So you could do that with croissants.
Well, I probably will. We'll see. I don't know.
Okay.
I go in stages. I get frustrated and then stop trying and make something else, but
Okay,
we'll
yeah.
see.
Keep me posted if you do that. I want to see
Yep,
it.
yep.
So at some point though, you started this as a hobby, but I imagine at some point you have this realization like, oh wait, I think I could turn this into
Right.
an actual business.
Yeah, it's pretty much a full-time gig for me now. It's one of the I'm in a weird place. I think we several bloggers, including yourself, I think, have been in this
Yep.
position of having a regular. I'll call it a regular job, but your typical career-oriented adult job that you've been in. I went to school for a long time and have this job in a lab that I really enjoy, but I've between the food blog and I do a lot of photography for kind of Nashville area restaurants and some
Nice.
food brands here. So between the photography and blogging side, it's totally a second full-time job at this point.
Wow.
And I'm at that teetering point where I think I probably should. I really enjoy the blog and photography side of it a little bit more than I enjoy sitting in a lab. I like that the academic environment and the work involved with being
And the
a
benefits.
biologist and the benefits. Yeah, that's probably really where my hesitation is I've never worked for myself, so I've talked to a lot of friends here. I have there's a ton of bloggers in Nashville. It's a random city I think that people just flock to, but there's a lot of full-time bloggers here that I'm friends with that are trying to help kind of guide me through that process. It's scary though to think about working for yourself when you've never done that before, and so I'm at the teetering point. So we'll see. I mean, a month from now we may speak again, and I might be full-time. So
All right.
we'll see.
What's some of the good advice that these colleagues are giving you?
Most of them just say to do it. I think almost every other food blogger that I know here that is full-time now, it was kind of in the same situation. They started in a job, they either didn't really enjoy it or they found passion in the blogging world, kind of really fulfilled their life a little bit more than their corporate job. And so I think most of them just say trust it, and if you really enjoy it, jump into it. So I'm still a little hesitant. So
Understandable.
yeah.
It's nice that you found some freelance work in addition that, that's in the same
And
category.
that's really right.
Yeah.
And I think that's made a big difference for me. I'm really going back to enjoying the photography side of blogging the most. I think working with a lot of brands and restaurants here, and such a fun city for food. I mean, Nashville's huge right now. And so we just have tons of restaurants here. And I've met a lot of the people in this hospitality industry here through my blog. And so it just kind of fell into place. And it's one of those things that I didn't ever expect. If you had asked me 5 years ago if I thought I would ever work as a full-time photographer or blogger, I would have thought you were crazy. But it's worked out well. And I think starting in the blogging world for photography and then moving into the paid world kind of photography, as really a lot of the restaurants here liked to see that there's a sense of authenticity. It's someone that really enjoys the food and knows the experience that their client would want to have. And so it's a nice perspective to have behind a lens, I think.
Yeah. And, I wish more restaurants would hire professional photographers, because I can't tell you how many restaurants I go into and the photos on their menu just look terrible.
Just leave a card or something.
Hire me. You really want to hire me.
I think a lot of restaurants are learning, especially for social media photos even. I would say half of my clients for photo work here are clients that hire me to go in once a month and take photos that they can use for social media. And as a blogger, I've kind of had this experience of adapting my own content to growing my social media outlets. So they may be used to making these more staged, prepared photos, and what they really would be better suited to have on social media are relatable, organic photos that are just really good quality. And there's a different type of photo needed for advertising and social media, I think, to succeed for businesses. And that's been a place that I've been able to kind of benefit from here, is having that experience and really enjoying social media. So
yeah, exactly. It's interesting that you say that, because I went to IACP last year.
Yeah.
And we were talking to someone who was very involved in food photography, but from the advertising side.
Right.
He was kind of complaining about the overly cluttered look of
Right.
food photography for bloggers. And it's interesting that there's such a difference. I can see where an ad usually is a lot less cluttered.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, but I think restaurants are noticing now that social media is one of their best ways to market and advertise, and I think figuring out how to promote that and not seem completely inorganic and artificial is difficult for a lot of people in those positions. Those are business people that are used to a different side of things, and so I've benefited a lot and really think that more restaurants should find photographers that maybe have a little bit more experience in the everyday world and not just shooting billboard ads.
So I'd love to talk about 3 different revenue models for food bloggers. Like I've got a post where I talk about that, and I the way I look at it, there's like ads, which very traffic focused. There's sponsored posts, which obviously, you got to probably be a pretty good salesperson to be able to get out there and pitch yourself. And then products that you might create a recipe book or things like that. But I feel like you just added another one. I'm going to have to go back and rewrite my post now because I wasn't thinking about the idea of this freelance work. That's such a great idea.
It was kind of an accident that I ended up doing so much freelance, but it's definitely not for every blogger, I think. But freelance work has been amazing for me personally. It's not something that I, like I said, have planned on doing at all. But once I started blogging and figuring out that really kind of my passion with blogging is in the food photography space, I started doing a little bit more of that work on the side. A lot of that came from just people noticing, hey, I like your pictures, I like your Instagram or something, and reaching out and saying, do you do product shoots? Do you do restaurant photography? So I started working with a few little brands and some restaurants here in Nashville, and it has turned into an entire business of its own. And I enjoy it. I think that's the important part. I think as long as you're sticking to something that you really feel like you're good at, you can provide someone else a service that they may need a little bit of help with or don't have time to do. And you're not just trying to find another income source. I think it's best if you kind of let something happen that you authentically are good at. That's why I stick to photography, but it also works really well for bloggers that maybe have become great writers. They have a good conversational tone. That's important, I think, in blogging, and some people have needs for that. There's a lot of opportunities for writing guest posts or other content and using yourself kind of in that freelance space as well. But it's been really profitable. It's been more profitable for me than my blog has now. So it's kind of, it's a good way to focus on something you're good at and enjoy, I think.
It's like an extension of your blog too.
It completely is. That's how it all started, and I still get I've kind of split it a little bit. I have a photography section or a separate website and business for that, but 90% of my customers and clients now come from some kind of recognition from my blog space. So yeah, I think if you can just focus on something that you're good at, don't force it. So
I know. See, so that's me. Like, I'm this kind of person where I'll go, oh, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the photography thing. But I feel like you've got to have to.
It. And I think falling into the freelance space, if it's not your normal gig, is the best way to do it. So
yes, but if you kind of push yourself, you're going to be so stressed out.
That is true. Balancing time with all of this has been rough, because I still have my day job, I still blog, and now it's kind of stressful. I've had to take a few moments. I kind of teeter from one to another, so I may slow down blogging a little bit when I'm really busy with photography, and that kind of happens seasonally with restaurants here, and I'll get busy when new menus roll out, and then I'll have a little bit of downtime, and that's when I may bump up the blogging side, and it's a lot of balance. It's been a good lesson in balancing myself, but I think if you can figure out how to do it and you're still comfortable with it, it can be a really good revenue source.
So, Philip, I'm always intrigued by the things that we do. Like, for a while, I was asking everybody the process behind creating a blog post, like, like the very process, like, what are the steps that you go through? And now I've been kind of thinking lately about, what are the things that we do now that we wish we would have known when we first started our blog? Is there anything like that for you? Is there anything that you're doing now that you wish you would have known at the beginning?
Oh, geez. There are a lot of things I wish I'd known in the beginning. But it's kind of one of those situations that I'm glad I didn't know a lot of these things when I started.
Yes.
I think I was lucky in that I'm surrounded by a really large blogging community here in Nashville, of food bloggers specifically, and that's been really beneficial to help me kind of grow. But it also it was kind of nice to figure it out for myself. I think if someone had just sat me down when I first started my blog and said, this is what you need to do, this, I don't think it would have been successful. I think everyone has their own individual brand image that they need to form, and it forms around, ultimately, in a blogger, that person's personality, I think. And that's really what people are there to see. So I think learning to stick to my own voice and do what makes me happy and not what I think is going to make everyone else happy. You may not attract everyone in the world to your blog, but you're going to attract the right people that really want to see who you are, who your own voice is authentically. And that organic kind of interaction with a user is completely based on you being authentic in your delivery. And that sounds like a really simple thing to do,
It does, yeah.
but it's not. It's really difficult because you get into this blogging space and it at times feels really competitive, and
Yes.
it feels like there are other blogs that are posting 3 times a week and I'm only posting 2, so I need to figure out something to post today. And I mean, I'll go a week or 2 sometimes. I try not to, but sometimes, and just have a situation where I feel like I can't write in kind of the true conversational tone that I like to write in. And so I've learned to just not post anything, and it's difficult. It's really hard, but I think sticking to your own voice was probably the most beneficial and the most difficult thing for me to learn. But once you kind of get that down and you accept that things aren't going to be textbook perfect every time, unless someone's maybe much more organized than I am and can schedule things out. But like, I try to get as much done, kind of getting posts ready as I can when I'm in those modes where I feel like I can write well. And hopefully that works out to where people don't disappear from my blog. But what's really important, I think, to me now is just making sure I'm happy. And then I think if you're happy in how you're delivering things, your readers will end up happy too. So that's been difficult, but it's critical to, I think, success in a blog.
Oh, I love that. I want to have that printed and put up on my desk because I need to remember that. Yes. Because I feel like I forget that every day. So I have to kind of remind myself of that.
It's hard. It's hard. It really is. You have to have fun with it. You have to enjoy it. And I think the day that I don't have fun with blogging anymore is the day that I will just hang it up, and that'll be it.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I have actually been thinking about that a lot lately. Like, I end up finding myself like, okay, you got to be in this Facebook group, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And I end up not enjoying those things. And then it starts to like create this doom feeling all over everything. And the more I can focus on the things that I really love and have fun with, I do better.
Right. So good examples of that for me are Instagram. I spend a lot of time on it because I like the photography side. But Twitter, I used to love, and now it just kind of drives me crazy. And so I don't tweet a lot on my blog account. And I post my posts on there, and I'll talk back and forth with people and respond if they reach out through that. But I don't really enjoy it now, and so I just don't focus on it. And there's a lot of bloggers I know that really stress about having to reach out on every outlet and all of these things, and it's just too much. It makes me cranky. I'm already cranky enough, and it kind of, as long as you can, you have to do what you enjoy. And that's, to me, I mean, I said it a few minutes ago, but really these people, the readers of your blog, they want to see part of your life. And I think if you're not really true and happy in doing what you're doing, they're going to notice, and it's going to come across as something not authentic. And so you're not going to be able to, I mean, maybe some people can hit every outlet and just keep pushing along like a freight train, but I can't do it. I'm selective, and there are outlets that I use and don't use as much, and that's just how it is. So
I think what you're saying, like, if it's spring, so everybody's cooking with rhubarb right now, and so I have to cook with rhubarb.
I hate rhubarb.
Yes, I hate rhubarb too.
You will not find a single rhubarb recipe online. And you know what? I think a lot of people that are posting rhubarb recipes probably don't like it. And I don't know. Maybe some of them actually do like it, but it's terrible. And so I don't
just say no to the rhubarb.
Yeah, and so like I don't. Which part of it is brand. My blog is Southern Fatty, not Southern Skinny, like we talked about. So I don't post a lot of health food, but I also don't eat a lot of health food. So you have to stick with it.
Right. I love it. That's such great advice. And I think everybody's going to resonate with that really well. So let's go on to, I have these fun questions I love to ask people at the end of the interview. Are you game?
I guess. Yeah. We'll see.
You have no choice. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Okay. What's one food item you can't live without?
French fries. Without a doubt.
Phillip, I love French fries.
That is a main food group to me. I mean, I'm one of those people that I'll get my food and eat all of the fries first, because it's just... Yeah.
They're so good when they're fresh like that too, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask you this, because, like, there's waffle fries, there's sweet potato fries,
geez.
Which are the best ones?
I like steak fries, like the thick, like...
Yes.
Like fluffy. I don't really care for like shoestring fries and
what
the little
is the point
tiny
of those?
It's a lot of work for not much return, I guess. But I'm with that. I like sweet potato fries too. So I
don't like them when they have cinnamon on them though.
No, that's not a French fry to me. That's a weird dessert thing. A dessert fry. Yeah. I should make that a thing.
They should make that a thing, actually, a dessert fry. Yeah. We love French fries so much we have them for dessert. Cool. I'm so into the French fry, and I've really liked the steak fries as well. They're the best.
No question.
Yeah.
That would be my last meal. Play the French fries.
I love them. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about the cholesterol if it's your last meal, so that's good. Okay, what's the favorite app on your phone?
Instagram. Has to be Instagram.
Yes. Okay. Let's make a caveat besides Instagram, because we know you love Instagram.
Oh, goodness. So probably Wonderlist, probably. Okay. As boring as that is. I'm one of those weird list people.
Yes.
So, like, I make lists for everything. It drives my friends crazy because I can share them on there, and we can collaborate on lists, and I get really weird about it. But yeah, that's probably my second choice.
Tell me an example of a list that you might make that your friends think is weird.
So I go to eat with my friends a lot, and I will get ideas for things to make for the blog. Yes. And I have them all split up by what type of, so like I have a drink list, and then I have sub lists in there of like cocktails. And I have a couple friends that I've invited to a shared list if they come up with ideas for things for me to make. They don't really contribute to that, but they're invited to, and it just, or trips. I'd say small, like weekend trips, I'll make huge lists of possible places to go. I don't know. I don't think it's so weird, but I think it's great. Tend to get a little frustrated with me.
Yeah, so, because you have this moment of genius, and then 3 seconds later, it's gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh, Wonderlist. I like that. I'm going to have to check that one out. Okay. You sound so busy. I can't imagine that you have time, but do you have time for TV? And if so, what's your favorite show?
I do. So Great British Bake Off is probably my all-time favorite show. It's amazing. I've spent more time than I want to admit finding places to watch old episodes, and I've watched all of the seasons now. And
it's on Netflix too, isn't it?
It is. It is. I love it. It's such a simple, kind of pure show, and the baking is, it's just a lot of fun. I found myself kind of imagining that that's what I'm on when I'm in my kitchen sometimes. But it's which I'm glad nobody can see. But yeah, that's definitely it. I'm not a huge reality show fan in general. Usually, I'll watch some shows, but for some reason I've just latched on to that. So
Oh, that sounds so cool. I'll have to confess, I haven't actually watched it, but based on your recommendation, I'm gonna
you
make
have
myself
to.
watch it.
Yeah,
It sounds
it's
great.
great.
Okay, how can people find you online?
So southernfatty.com is the blog, and then all the social media outlets, it's Southern Fatty. It's the same thing across the board on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I will tweet you back, even though I don't like it. I'll do but Instagram's probably the best, but
Yes.
that's it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people go and follow you on Instagram because your posts are just beautiful.
Thank you. That's my favorite. It really is. I share a little bit kind of more variety there than I do on the blog. So a lot of Nashville stuff, which people seem to like and I like. So
I really like accounts that go beyond. And by the way, I have a finger pointing back at me because I have a tendency just to share what's on my blog. And I really like the accounts that do
it's
more.
tough. Yeah. Because people keep driving in this brand consistency, but then to me, Instagram is it's more of an extension of me personally than my blog is. So not that they both aren't personal, they are, but Instagram is just set up, I think, to share kind of those moments. So
Yes,
I like sharing other things. If I only shared my blog posts, I would get really bored with myself. So it's something else to do, and it's a lot of fun. That's probably the best place for me to interact with people. I think comments on blog posts are a little less common now than they used to. So, and I'm fine with that because it's not as easy to talk to someone. Where Instagram, we can go back and forth. They can comment on my stories and we can talk, and it's just fun.
I love it. Well, Phillip, I really have had a great time talking with you. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks to Phillip Fryman for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. Be sure to go to choppedpodcast.com to learn more about today's show and to sign up for our newsletter so you can be the first to hear about the latest things that we're doing here at the Chopped Podcast. Thanks to everyone for your reviews of the Chopped Podcast on iTunes and Stitcher and social media as well. All of this is wonderful. Keep spreading the word. It really makes a big difference. You inspire me, and I hope today's show is helpful and inspirational to you as well. Now, go forth and be your best you.